Hello everybody, my name is Melanie Harwood of Harwood Education, and I am very, very pleased to introduce you to Joanna McFarlane. Joanna McFarlane is a globally leading environmentalist, conservationist, and a biologist. And I'm going to hand over to Jo to introduce herself and to tell us a little bit more about her work, and then we're going to take it from there. Pleased to meet you, Jo.
Hi Melanie, and thanks very much for this opportunity to join your Recovery Curriculum Summit. I'm very excited to be part of this, so thanks ever so much.
So Jo, tell us, what have you been doing the last few years?
Well, I think it's probably useful for those watching this to actually know who I am, as well as what I've been doing over the last few years. Which is probably quite important when it comes to talking about the programme that I'm doing, because it does bring a special part to it. And that is the fact that I am a qualified biologist and a qualified conservationist as well. And I've spent the last 25 years working with wildlife and across the UK and abroad, and learning about the issues that are facing wildlife and the environment and the planet. And what that means is that what I've been doing and bringing to the kind of schools and nurseries and groups that I've been visiting over the last years with my programme, which we'll be talking more about, is that they have been meeting, the children have been meeting a real biologist, a real conservationist, somebody who is out there and has been out there looking and understanding and researching and working to try and save nature across the UK and the world. And so essentially for them, they are getting hot off the press, really an experience with someone who's still working in that environment. That is really the fundamental basis of my programme, is not only are children going to be learning and gaining knowledge and skills and understanding their role in helping nature, but they're also going to be learning it from someone who is working in that field on a regular basis as well.
Now, Jo, you were in the past, for the past few years, you've been sponsored by Scottish Water to go from school to school in Scotland to deliver your Wild Planet Explorers. You've got two parts of it. You've got Wild Planet Explorers Juniors for children aged 3 to 9, and then you have Wild Planet Explorers Kids. But that wasn't physically possible for you to do every school in Scotland. So just tell us a little bit about how that all started and where that is going.
So when I first started Wild Planet Explorers and designed my sessions and my presentations, I really started out on my own, going out into nurseries and schools and trying to encourage teachers and scout leaders to invite me in so that they could get this kind of new experience of learning about biology and conservation in a completely different way. And initially I went out all over Scotland, promoted it myself and tried to get out there into those schools and nurseries. And at the same time, I am still living in a coastal community in Fife in Scotland. And I was looking at the amazing amount of sewage-related pollution that was washing up on the beaches around where I lived. And I knew that all the children, the families, the community were really upset about this. So at the same time I was developing Wild Planet Explorer sessions and trying to get the word out there about what I was doing, also in my own local community, I was realizing that we had a really serious environmental issue. And so what happened was, over time, I started to talk to Scottish Water about this issue. I would almost say that there was a little bit of lobbying on my behalf. I set up a nature conservation group in my local area with lots of very passionate volunteers, many of them families and children who wanted to do something about this. And I started talking a lot to Scottish Water about this issue. And then I decided, right, I'm going to set up a pledge that everyone in the community perhaps would like to make, to never throw anything down the toilet except the 3 Ps. You hear this a lot from other charities such as Surfers Against Sewage and other Marine Conservation Society. I set up a stall on the harbour. I did an event. I went to the school. I talked all about them. Let's make this pledge as a community and show that we don't throw this stuff down the toilet, and let us be an example to everyone else across Scotland. So the 3P Pledge was created, and then I created the 3P Pledge Champion Award, because what happened was the families were like, yes, I'll make the pledge, but what do I do next? I want to do something next. And what that then happened was my profile was raised in the local area about this topic, and I started meeting more with Scottish Water. And alongside that, while Planet Explorers was developing, and I said to them, well, look, how about we go in together? Because they explained to me the problems they had with blockages all the time, the cost that was to everyone, that they were having to constantly clear out blockages, overflow was happening due to products being put down the toilet that shouldn't be. And we said together, well, let's work in collaboration, let's work together. And I suggested, why don't I go into schools? I'll promote Scottish Water and the messages you're trying to get out, and I'll continue to do my usual sessions of Awesome, the Octopus, Cassis, the Crab, and Deeper, the Dolphin, all about the marine litter food chain, and let's do it together. And after a lot of discussion, the education team at Scottish Water said yes, and we started locally in Rosyth area, near where I live, and all the 5 schools, primary schools, we went into there, and the children loved the sessions. They were emotionally connected immediately to the animals I was talking about, and we'll talk more about the sessions in a bit. And they all did the 3P Pledge Champion Award, which included litter cleans and raising awareness and inspiring others to take action. And at the end of it, they felt they'd really achieved something. And Scottish Water and I are now talking together. I've been helping them develop an online resource on their website to engage families more during this time. But a lot of my work I do is outside Scottish Water, and I continued to go around many hundreds of schools and nurseries and scout groups, continuing all my other sessions, which aren't just about marine litter. It is a message I want to really get out to teachers in communities and to others in communities, is that often we sit around waiting for others to take action and do something. But locally, in local communities, particularly with schools, you could really make change happen on a local level and get things cleared up and sorted out. And it was actually the school in the local community who took the 3P Pledge on, put it out in the press that they were doing the award. The kids join every beach clean that I organise on the beaches, and they are now merged it into the curriculum. They are a really fantastic school, and I would hope that loads of other schools around the UK could follow that lead and really engage in their local community issues of the environment.
Jo, you and I met you because one of our side passion projects, well, Denise and I created the Climate Change Teacher Course, and we strong-armed the United Nations to partner with us. We paid for a joint portal with the UN, and we've now taken that on. That's Educate Global. Now, you won the Educate Global Award. You were the very first. And it was because you came to our attention. We were watching what you were doing in the news. And Denise and I just said, this is very inspirational. This is what we are after. We are looking for inspiring educators, inspiring scientists, biologists, conservationists, environmentalists that are educating not only children in schools, but outwardly educating their communities with a very positive impact. And what we loved the most was that the school that you worked with harnessed the local media to do so. And that was how you came to our attention. Then you came along and you did our Educate Global Climate Change Teacher Course. And we've developed a fantastic relationship with you as you've been going. We've been following your journey as you've been delivering to schools. We've been very lucky, however, in that Denise and I were privileged to watch one of your lessons online, and I've never ever seen anything like it. So that for me was, when I saw Wild Planet Explorers, I just thought, this has got to be an online blended learning program. And that's what we've been working on with you for the last few months. Now, blended learning is something that not every school or teacher may have got to grips with just yet. because that is what we've been trialing with Wild Planet Explorers in a cluster of schools, is trialing the lessons delivered in schools, but also with the option of those schools leading it as an online package for parents, families, carers at home to be delivering with children.
Yeah.
With COVID-19 now in full swing, and we had pre-COVID-19, now we are heading over to post-COVID-19. This recovery curriculum, many schools may not go back, many children may not go back to actual physical schooling for many months. You know, as our speaker yesterday, Peggy Sear from California, told us, almost all the children in California are online. Everything is digital, and they may only go back to physical schooling in January 2021, possibly. Okay. How do you see this new development, this recovery curriculum, helping children around the world to access new ways of learning about the environment, even though they are doing it from home? Is this a positive or is this a negative?
Well, for me personally, it's a very positive opportunity. At the moment, I am one person trying to get everyone to save the world. Well, particularly the environment and wildlife side of it. And I've been able to engage with thousands of children in my local area and wider. But what online learning does, and the ability for me to get the stories and the messages of wildlife and the environment, and what people can do, what families can do to get it out there wider, online is an incredible tool to do that. So when I up until the COVID-19 lockdown, I'd only ever done my sessions face-to-face in schools and nurseries. And it was an absolutely wonderful experience, and obviously wholly reliant on budgets being there for schools and nurseries and scout groups. And as you know, particularly in the UK, there haven't been a lot of budgets for schools. And even for charity groups in some places. So I was very restricted in how many children I could reach and families. But when I did my online sessions during lockdown and converted them online, and now because they've been converted online, they are also now available for outside, which is a fantastic opportunity for me, because I wasn't able to use interactive props, holding props online. So I had to be more creative and change it up. So now through blended learning programs, for example, I'm very aware that local lockdowns in Scotland could happen at any moment. And teachers are all prepared for that. They're prepared to go back online if they have to. But I also know, for example, with my local school, that Wild Planet Explorers is written into the curriculum. So my sessions are written in. So actually, for the local school here, we are in conversation at the moment. It's a possibility for me to do it virtually with the children when they're at home with their families. And the teacher is thinking about that, obviously very preoccupied at the moment about keeping it safe for children. But that you can already see teachers are like, yes, you know, all of the things you're teaching about sustainable consumption, life on land, life underwater, quality education, all those things that the sustainable development goals, which they're also teaching, are trying to, those messages they're trying to get across. My sessions deliver for all of that. And so what I see, the opportunity, I see as a positive thing, is that teachers will have access to these resources that perhaps they never would have had before, to just say, well, actually, if you all as a family would like to watch this session with Wild Planet Explorers, and here are some follow-up actions that we've worked together with Wild Planet Explorers with to follow on as a family and also for the school, and they'll have that just at their fingertips. And I think that's an amazing opportunity.
Now, what we've discussed, what you particularly wanted for Wild Planet Explorers, you didn't just want lesson plans for schools. You wanted the teachers to have lesson plans for Scotland, England, and international, the IB schools. And I was like, you know, not a big ask. But you also wanted parent carer instructions, and you've written in projects as well. Now, we've been trialing that in a cluster of schools during lockdown. We've been seeing this method and we can see that it works. We had a head teacher contact us, Fiona Cowan, and she said, my engagement after the half-term holiday has just fallen off a cliff. What do I do? How do I get my community back? I mean, the communication with her families is excellent. That's a case study in itself. So for her to say, how do I get my families back? They've had this, they're learning remotely. They have a holiday, they're gone, they don't come back.
Yeah.
So what she did was she said, can you onboard the families to the portal again, just as the teachers have got access to it? But I said, we would never, ever communicate with those families. It would be up to the school to lead it, because we are the developers, the program and the lesson and the product developers, but it is not our place to lead that. And you've always insisted that it is for the teachers to deliver the direction of the program, then to allow the children and the parents and the carers to have access to it, whether it be in school or at home, and then for those projects to be returned to school. Do you still feel that that's the way forward, Jo?
Yes, I think what I would say is that I'm going to, for my programme, make it as clear as possible of what teachers follow up after the sessions, how much the families do. It's going to be a very, simple and very clear kind of plan for teachers, what they do after my session. So but what I would say is that, I am the face of Wild Planet Explorers, and therefore if teachers want to speak to me about what the programme is about, then of course I'm here. And I'm still in touch with what's going on in the conservation world, even more so lately, and have been invited to be part of a monitoring and coastal community project along the Firth of Forth. I am really trying to keep in touch with everything that's going on out there. So for a teacher who, they might have an idea about how they'd like to follow up Awesome the Octopus, with and more about marine litter or another issue outside toilet litter, and I will be able to help them with other resources, other partners that they could go to, the Marine Conservation Society, fantastic charity, the RSPB, loads and loads of wonderful charities out there, and I know who they all are. So I'm, if I'm putting my face to Wild Planet Explorers and their children are getting to know who I am, well then a teacher could easily email and say to children, well, let's go to Jo and let's find out. And that's the point.
How would you feel, Jo, if we created a closed, for those participating schools that are going to be using Wild Planet Explorers, how would you feel about a closed Facebook group for those schools to have direct access to each other and to you?
Yes, I would. Yeah, that's all I've ever wanted to do, really. I always follow up with the teachers when I've been in. I tell them that I'm there, and obviously they have such a busy time. But I do hear back from them. We're going to do this topic in the future. We'd like to bring you in to talk about this particular conservation story. It's been working really nicely, and I'm already being invited back to STEM festivals to talk, and so teachers are seeing me as a resource. And that's what I want to be for them. What was your other question about?
I think that if you had the
Facebook group,
you had your closed Wild Planet Explorers Facebook group, I think that also because of COVID, from the feedback that we are getting pre-orders for Wild Planet Explorers from schools in America, UAE. You're not going to be able to fly to those schools, Jo, so, and you wouldn't want to. So I can see those schools being able to contact you via the closed WPE Facebook group, and those participating schools, and ask you to do either Facebook Lives or do Zooms, or you could be doing, they could book you in for assemblies, specialist Wild Planet Explorer sessions. I think that now that we've all embraced this digital technology. Alexander Shea, in his virtual summit talk, in his recovery curriculum talk, he tells us that in the space of 3 months, we have adopted digital technology to an extent that was only expected by 2025.
Wow.
25. So we've come on within 3 months. We've had no choice but to dive in, get to know how Zoom works, Microsoft Teams, Google Classrooms, these Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives, and for schools to have access to you and your knowledge and your contacts, I think would be invaluable for them to bring the whole world alive, because there's only so far that we can do online in a lesson, but to open the world using the digital technology, this communication technology, my personal belief is we no longer need the conference of the parties. I'm so sorry, United Nations. I just think now that we've had all of these Zooms, all of this online meetings, we can solve these issues. We can meet with virtual summits and online groups. I mean, I'm part of one with Al Gore's team at the moment. I'm busy doing a training with them, and I can do that from my office, my home office.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Office. And I think that is the way forward, and especially with education, with your program is so unique. I mean, when I show head teachers and teachers just snippets of Wild Planet Explorers, they just start salivating. It is that good. I mean, you know, we're now, as a family, as our team have been editing these lessons and we've been trialing them, and the head teachers are coming back saying, is this really happening? We're sitting outside going, Joanna says this, it must be, we're looking, how do we fix it? So I think that there is so much scope for the teachers to be able to connect directly with you, but in a closed Facebook group.
Yes.
We were also saying yesterday that you need your very own Wild Planet Explorers podcast, so that you can invite teachers from around the world each week to have a chat with you about interesting lessons, spin-offs that are
that would be fascinating.
in their towns as a result of your Wild Planet Explorers juniors and kids. So it can go anywhere, and that's the beauty of the recovery curriculum. We can start thinking outside the box, and we can use these digital platforms, and possibly platforms that haven't even been created yet, to have an explosion in learning globally, that we can make positive changes, positive impacts on our environment. What do you hope to achieve? What is your mission for what you've been doing? What do you feel would be your best outcome? What is it?
So my biggest mission is to show every single child who is in the world, I've started with my local community, that it doesn't matter where you live, in what kind of house you live, or flat, or city, or place, that every single child can really make a difference to help wildlife and the environment. And I know this because I have children across Fife who live in every different kind of community that you could imagine, aside from in Scotland. It doesn't matter where they live or their circumstances, they all care about wildlife. This is particularly talking about the younger side, and I'll talk about the older ones in a minute. And they want to know is, I love these animals, and I love the forests, and I love the sea, and what can I do now? I've got the knowledge, I care, what do I do? Tell me what to do. And that's all they want to know. And I know what they need to do, and a lot of people know what they need to do, but we can't get the message out just personally on my own, to every child to tell them what they can do about the problems that are facing wildlife and the environment. And some of them are so simple, and some of them can be done right from the room that they live in. And I find that very frustrating that I can't get out there and talk to more children. So my mission, and I wrote it in my first ever little business plan for my environmental education business, that I wanted to get wild planet explorers across the world, with maybe people who live in those countries I could work with, who could represent wild planet explorers, who know every single animal and the problems they face in that particular country, and we could work together for wild planet explorers. And I just want every child to be given the chance to be able to take action. And the children I meet who have no idea about the problems that are out there that are facing wildlife. You know, when I was younger, a species of tiger went extinct while I was growing up. And I'm in the Indonesian area, and I never even knew it was going extinct. And I never knew I could do anything about it. And now, right at the moment, there are two species of tiger, the Sumatran and the Malayan tiger, a few hundred left out in Indonesia, that are on the brink of extinction, along with a whole load of other species out there in the rainforests of Indonesia. And children don't know about it. So I went to a high school and delivered a session all about the impacts of deforestation due to palm oil, particularly as the issue out there. And none of them knew about it. When I asked them, why there was, I think I spoke to about 100 children in different groups that day. And I asked them to put up their hand. They'd heard about deforestation. And I said, why do you think the Sumatran and Malayan tiger are on the brink of extinction out here? What's happening? And they thought of deforestation for paper. I think that was the main one that came out. And they hadn't heard of palm oil. And this is a group of 13, 14, 15-year-old children. So at the end of it, I said to them, one of the key things as you grow up is to be informed, read things, find out about things, and get your knowledge and understand what the problem is. But know that it's not just about hearing all the doom and gloom and the problems, but actually each one of you can change this. And you could write a letter to your MP or MSP to raise awareness of the issue, get a campaign going, set up a change.org petition, go to the supermarket and buy something that doesn't have unsustainable palm oil in it, and then tell everyone you know that they shouldn't use that anymore. Check what's in your fridge. You be informed and then do something about it. And each of you could change the Sumatran tiger going extinct. And they all sat there and they were like, okay, some of them were like, okay. The others were like, oh gosh, yeah, we've got it in our hands to make change. I wish someone had come into my school when I was growing up and had told me about the tigers over it. So it's in the ones that have gone extinct, for example, the Javan tiger. There are a whole load of tigers that have gone extinct while I've been growing up, and I'm just sorry that there weren't more people like me out there telling children about what the problems and showing them what they could do when I was younger.
Jo, how many animals have gone extinct in the last 5 years?
Well, my goodness, I could reel off stats, but I mean, if you're looking at the UK, we've lost vast swathes of our species across the UK, including declines in common toads, declines in bees and pollinators, declines in the red squirrels, declines in meadows, declines in wildflower meadows particularly, declines in the quality of fresh water for species, declines in reptiles, declines in mammals, declines in bird species, particularly farmland birds. And the variety of percentages range from 97%, for example, for wildflower meadows that it's declined by, right through to, in some areas particularly, right through to 60% of amphibian species like toads. I mean, the percentages, to be quite honest, are so many of them. of decline that I sometimes find myself having to write them down myself to remember them, because there are so many of them. And actually in some of my programs I do match the stats, because there's so many statistics now. That's one thing actually that's a bit overwhelming for children, and often it doesn't mean anything, and even for teachers, stats, 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 stats. Actually, you know, the real crux of it is that there aren't as many common toads there anymore. The reason being is because there is habitat loss, development on countryside, disease. When I was younger, and it particularly helps when it comes to biologists and conservationists in my age, I say when I was younger, I used to see them all the time. Now I hardly ever see them at all, and this is the reason. You can throw stats at particularly younger children and it just goes over here, but the older ones get their teeth into them a bit more, but the stats are depressing, and but that's not what we should dwell upon. What we should be dwelling on is what do we do about it, and bring the story to life by getting that emotional connection to the animal. So yeah, stats.
Joanna, can you explain to me why you created two versions of Wild Planet Explorers? Why did you create the version for juniors, ages 3 to 9, and then kids ages 9 to 17? What's the difference between the two?
Okay, so the younger sessions I set up first, and that was because I wanted to get into nurseries of 3 years and up, and get in there as early as possible to inspire them to be biologists and conservationists. And I thought if I can get in at 3 years old, knowing that my own daughter was already identifying animals and understanding the problems of not dropping litter at 3, I thought, well, if my daughter can do it, I'm sure everyone's daughter or son can do it. So I started my sessions up from 3, and of course, if you're engaging a 3-year-old in biology and conservation, you've got to be punchy, you've got to be dynamic, interactive, it's got to be very interactive, it's got to be fun, it's got to be just different, keep their attention, you know, keep it moving. So I wrote all the sessions of Wild Planet Explorers initially for 3 to 5, and then when I did them, a whole load of teachers who saw it said, I'm a scout leader, my scouts would love this, and the beavers and the cubs. And I said, oh wow, I'd love to come in and do it, and I can increase the knowledge level, of course, for them. They said, yeah, but don't change any of the activities, keep the activities exactly the same, and the music. And so in my sessions for 3 to 9, I use pop music and other music to teach a session, usually face to face. Hope to do that outside as well. Just purchased a Wonder Boom, and I'm hoping that schools will allow me to play music outside. We'll have to wait and see, but otherwise I've got a massive power bubble blaster instead for outside for my sessions, which is going to be good fun. But yeah, so the 3 to 8 9 years old up to P4 effectively, and went down an absolute treat, and everybody loved it. And then all of my bookings for quite a while were actually schools for that early, you know, first year to 8-9-year-old age group, and that was fantastic. And of course, a lot more interaction from the children, and even more chance to you know, explain to them what they can do about helping the wildlife. But then what happened was, because teachers saw me and operating and what I was doing, word spread a bit, as word does, and they were saying, well, do you do secondary? Do you do secondary school presentations? This was in the early days. And I said, well, yes, I'm very happy to come in. I said my presentation will be a very dynamic, honest, and quite exciting, and from my perspective as a biologist and conservationist as well. But at the end, it will tell them and give them the opportunity to know what they can do about it. So I went into older classes and high schools, and yeah, I think because they're listening to someone who is passionate and has been working in the field and knows what's happening and can translate that to that age group, so it's not a kind of technical, scientific, you know, it's a very emotional, come on everyone, let's do something about this presentation. It's very different to what they're used to, and so that's been going down really well as well. So yeah.
Now, there is a big difference to when you are live to when you are online, and I think that what you've done with Wild Planet Explorers is you've captured the essence of you live. because of the interactivity, because you've created ways for children and teachers to engage and their parents and carers to engage. And that's what I loved about it. I mean, I've never ever watched something online where I've been jumping up and down and dancing with and singing and writhing around on the floor like a 5-year-old. And I said to Denise, this is the best ever.
Oh, thank you.
And she said, I really love it. And it was just we were so lucky that you said to me, well, lockdown in Scotland is now lifted. You can cross the border. And we were there. We were there with a film crew. We were filming you. And we were very, very lucky that Scouts Scotland allowed us to hire that venue for a few days to be able to film you. And I noticed the environment that you were in, because you live in this incredibly beautiful, beautiful place in Scotland where you can look out over the Firth of Forth at the ships and the ocean and this bridge, and there's fantastic wild fields and hills, and I highly recommend that you all take a trip out to go and visit Joe, but not don't just turn up at the door unannounced.
Yes.
We'll have to do something where we can book something with the Scouts and schools in the future. Potentially schools will be able to book the Scouts HQ and have live sessions with you, specialist sessions with you, because it is something to behold, to actually be where those sessions were originally created, and to meet you and to experience them physically. But what do you think is the negative with online learning? Is there a negative with where we are going to be putting this emphasis on the digital, on the online? Do you still think we can have that level of engagement?
Well, I think personally, of course, being face-to-face with children, really face-to-face with them when you're teaching is the, most wonderful thing. And they, we're human beings. We're used to being, interacting with each other, and, even wearing masks is like, your eyes are bigger than they ever used to be trying to communicate with people you've just met. But I think the negative, the negative is probably for me will be that I just want to meet all the children and families that communicate with me and who use Wild Planet Explorers for their children, and whether it be teachers or families. That's my negative. One day I want to meet them all and I want to see who they are but saying that, Facebook Live, and all my sessions have been live. They've seen me in action. But you can never take away the fact we're human beings and we should all be next to each other. That's why everybody is, finding the social restrictions so hard, and being away from family and friends, and, sometimes slightly reckless behavior, because human beings are, meant to be communicating and next to each other physically. But yeah, so the live side really helps that rather than just recorded. So I'd love to then have that interaction afterwards. I've always, with the online stuff, it would be wonderful to be doing live sessions into schools and knowing, getting a list of the names of the children, saying hello to them from the screen, answering questions at the end of the session, and having, for me, kids used to say over the online sessions, it's like you're on television. It's like watching CBeebies or CBBC, and you're going, oh, hello, Aidan, hello, Sally, hello, and then they're like, wow, the TV's talking to me. It's like television. And so for children, it's been actually quite exciting when I'm like saying their names and waving at them. And I can imagine in the classroom, you've suddenly got this person beaming in, potentially going, hello, hi P3, hello year 2, hello to and then saying all their names and getting them to wave. And what a fantastic experience, and I'd love to do that. Count me in.
You've just given me an idea, Joe, because I think I can see that Wild Planet Explorers is already the interest in it has been pretty pretty outrageous. You know, I just have to just show head teachers a snippet and they're going, oh, I'll have that, I'll pre-order that. I think that with your Facebook group, we should, once there's a vaccine for COVID-19, I think that an interesting thing that we could do is we could have a Wild Planet Explorers live event for practitioners and teachers and educators and head teachers and families to come and attend and have a big Wild Planet Explorers conference. So we should do that once a year, but that'll be a lot of
Count me in. Yeah, count me in. Yeah, I've been dreaming of that actually for a long time.
Your event.
Well, I've been saying to my partner Andrew, who's just been amazing through all this, that one day I would like to get everyone together who has helped Wild Planet Explorers reach where it is now, to thank them, whether that be the families, the people who've got me into schools, and have a big celebration to say thank you so much. And I've almost written an event plan. I've got the music, the pictures that will be going up, some montage. I have it all in my head because there's been so many amazing people that have helped me get here. And one day, Mel, lots of dreams and ambitions.
Very, very soon, Jo. Very soon. You've made something very, very special. I'm looking forward to setting up your podcast. I'm looking forward to introducing you to educators, biology teachers, parents, carers, head teachers, teachers around the world. I know that with what we've been doing with Educate Global, I would love for Wild Planet Explorers to be a part, most certainly a part of the Silver Award as an automatic item that schools get once they move up to the Silver Award, because it provides that content. It's one thing for teachers to be taught how to teach climate change and sustainability. It's another thing to just give them lesson plans. I don't think lesson plans quite cut the mustard. You have to have an initiative or a project or a program that really delivers the passion and provides those teachers with that sounding board that they can you know, just hit the ground running with it, so they know the concepts, they understand them, and then boom, somebody like you that has been doing this for years and years with your knowledge, with all of your contacts for those teachers is invaluable. And I think that's what's so special about it. I wanted to ask you, there's a talk within the virtual summit from Vasiliki Kiupi. She's busy doing research. She's with the Imperial College London and she's working with Educate Global. We're doing a research project with all of the schools in Hammersmith and Fulham Borough Council for a year on an assessment of how schools teach the SDGs.
Yeah.
Do you think that would help us to get the message across about best practice? Have you found when you go to schools, do you ask pupils, you know, about the SDGs? Do they know what they mean, how they fit into those?
So I'd say in the high schools there's a more awareness that I've come across, but I've only probably been in a few recently. But I would say in primary schools that some of the teachers I've met have been struggling to you know, get the message across, and that was quite visible to me when I had just qualified or just done your accreditation for climate change teaching, and I'd incorporate, which is brilliant by the way, recommend every teacher do it. It's such a, I gained so much knowledge and understanding. It was wonderful, and I incorporated that into my presentations I was doing on marine litter and the circular economy, and at the end of it I suggested to the teachers they do the course, and the teachers came up to me and said, I think I will, because when you ask them about sustainable development goals, only 2 children put up their hands, and I've been teaching that for about 1.5 years. And I said, well, it is a, you know, it's a challenging subject if you haven't got all the material and the on understanding knowledge yourself, and it's a big curriculum to you know, to teach. And so, you know, she was very keen to get more understanding about that. But sustainable development goals are key, you know, to children coming out of their schools and high schools and colleges, having the kind of behaviours and understanding to be resilient during all the changes that are coming to them on the planet and in society. And I, you know, I agree with Vasiliki in what she's trying to do. I think the research is excellent, and I think for any school to be able to monitor, that teacher would love to have had that tool to monitor whether what she was doing was working or not, and if it wasn't, what could she do? I think that's the kind of place you need to get that kind of tool into. So yes, fully support what she's doing, I think, and what you're doing with her. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not so much where we are going to be assessing. We're going to be assessing the baseline understanding and the knowledge, like have the SDGs, the teaching that we've been doing, is it getting through?
Okay.
Do the pupils have a good baseline knowledge? Then we will be measuring 6 months later on the follow-on data, and then 6 months after that, to be able to see, have we tweaked our practices? Have we started integrating those SDGs into the lessons, into the curriculum?
Yes.
So we are not advocating to change the curriculum. We are saying that we can integrate the SDGs, sustainability, climate change, all of these items within an existing curriculum.
Yes.
But we also are quite aware, as many of the speakers of the virtual summit have been telling us, that we have an opportunity to completely revitalize a curriculum that seemed to have become very stale and was no longer serving us. It was like if you watch Paula Garb's talk, or you listen to her talk as part of the virtual summit, she says to us, she said, we go back to ancient Greece, where if somebody had said then that, you know, everybody would be learning literacy, numeracy, that to write, to read, that you would have been laughed at.
Yeah.
It would have just not been the norm. And she said, but look at where we've come. If we now said to individuals, well, we're not going to be teaching literacy and numeracy, reading, writing anymore, now it would be unthinkable. But we now have this opportunity to revitalize and rethink and re-look at how we are going to be educating and preparing our children and our communities for the future. Because these changes are happening as we speak. As we are talking now, there are species going extinct.
Yeah.
As we are speaking. And that is something that we need to really look at intensely and say, no, the buck stops with us. What can we do about it? How can we educate ourselves to make that change, to stop that from happening, and to ensure that we have a planet for tomorrow?
Yeah.
That is the most important thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jo, is there one last thing that you would like to say? If you could go back in time in a capsule, 20 years, what would you have done differently? Education-wise, make sure that it's got to do with education.
Yeah, education-wise. I think one of the things I would have done is I would have, 20 years ago, we already knew about climate change. So I would have searched out the personal people who were educating people about climate change 20 years ago, so that I was now the most experienced climate change educator in the world, because people have been trying to educate about climate change and the impacts of it and what we could 20 years ago, and no one was listening. And if I could go back 20 years, I would do that. I maybe would have trained as a teacher so that I could understand teachers, what challenges they have, and you know, even more than I do already. So that, you know, but then if I'd done all that, I would never have been doing all the incredible conservation work that I had the opportunity to do for the last 20 years. And the knowledge and the contacts and the vision I now have for this planet and for children wouldn't be here. So I say, well, I'm pretty happy where I am right now. If I can make the change that needs to happen, I can do as much as I can while I'm on this planet, then that's what I'm happy to be doing that.
It's very interesting you say that. Professor Paula Garb personally set up two specialist units, one at the University of California, Irvine, one at George Mason University in America. And she personally nurtured more than 700 students of hers that became professors in the field of peace and conflict resolution. Wonderful. And they spread globally. They now run these 700 professors have gone out into the world. And I just think that that's one person.
Yeah.
And she said if she could go back in time, she would spend more time with the students that were not interested in what she was talking about.
Okay.
And I think that if we can cut through the noise, if we can get that engagement from students that may not grasp or be interested in this message, we will win. We will win. There is no reason why we cannot. We've had 25 years of Conference of the Parties, 25 years. And I always call them the COP Blues. You go to the Conference of the Parties if you are blessed enough to get a ticket. So the tickets are like hen's teeth. Only the United Nations departments get tickets, and they might deem some of their NGOs or partners give them tickets to go. And you go to it and you see this flurry of activity, people running from hall to hall, and all the talks that they're doing, and everybody's standing up there going, we're going to do a white paper, a research study on this. And you just think, you are screaming inside thinking the time for research papers is over. The time for tangible action is now. And you come away from COP and you hit the buffers. You get the most horrific downer. And I always warn everybody, be very aware that after Conference of the Parties, you are going to get the COP blues. But don't get those COP blues. I think that enough is enough. And by empowering and educating our children, I would love to see with Educate Global, I would love to see the strategy that we have now, that pyramid system where we have the head teacher directing a sustainability and climate change lead, and their support team beneath them of 5 teachers driving through programs such as Wild Planet Explorers, mini readers, and all of the Educate Global e-library content that is there. We are building lessons and programs at a rate of knots so that your pupils will be prepared. We're even busy building, right now, we're building the introduction to the green economy for year 9s. There is tons. We have schools, one of the schools, you've got to watch the talk with Vijaya Kumari Satyan. She is incredible. She's a principal, we call them head teachers here, in a school called Westminster School in Dubai. And she talks about how her teams, how she's built that pyramid, not only once, but 5 pyramids under that, because she has 5,000 pupils in her school. And now every classroom, 127 classrooms, are each going to be delivering an environmental initiative over the year. That is powerful stuff. Those 5,000 children have 5,000 families.
Great. I'd like to meet them, please, Mel.
Well, you have no choice, because that school, they've seen Wild Planet Explorers and they've said, please can we have it as part of our Gold Awards? So that is their next step. And I think that what's going to be happening is the more schools that are delivering the likes of Wild Planet Explorers and these blended learning packages that are teacher-led, where they can tap in to your specialist knowledge and your contact base, it's going to be a powerful revolution in environmental and biological education. And I cannot wait. And I think that for me is the recovery curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can only go up from here. We cannot go back. We cannot allow our system to continue in the way that it is. We've got to, knowledge is power. We have to empower ourselves and prepare ourselves for the green revolution. So I cannot wait. And this is just the beginning. If you are a teacher or an educator or a head teacher and would like to get in touch with us to find out more about Educate Global and Wild Planet Explorers and the recovery curriculum as a whole that's being delivered, this summit has been sponsored by Educate Global in partnership with Hammersmith and Fulham Borough Council. They've kindly given us their emotional recovery training package free for every participating school. That is a package that is worth more than £3,000. And they've said, as part of their global citizenship with Educate Global, every participating teacher, every participating school will have free access to that. So please, you know, we are here to give and give and give and deliver, because the more we give, the more we receive. So if you have any questions, if you want to deliver your very own talk as part of the recovery curriculum, if you feel that you have methods or programs or interesting concepts that you would like to talk about, please get in touch with me. Our email is support@educateglobal.org. That is support, SUPPORT, at educateglobal, EDUCCATEGLOBAL.org. Remember, 2 C's in educate, because it's climate change. Educateglobal.org. Please get in touch with us. This is just the beginning, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.